And I believe we are live. Does everybody see live on their screen?
Yes, I do.
Yes,
All
I see
righty.
it.
All right, so we are live. Today is Sunday, June 24th, and welcome everyone to Blacks in the Burbs. I am Colette, I'm your New Jersey Burbie, and tonight we are talking all about interior design. We have a guest on that's going to share lots of tips on how to get your home stylish and fresh and funky, or whatever it is your style is. She can give you some advice on how to make it your own. And we also have another guest who you've seen before, who is in the process of renovating her home. So she's going to share with us that journey, which can be very interesting. And so I feel like I'm going to learn a lot from both of you, because I do need style tips, Beth, and I do need to figure out how to get the money to renovate my home, Peggy. So welcome, Beth Diana Smith. Give a wave.
Hello.
And Peggy Bean, give a wave.
Hi.
So first of all, I just want to start off by talking about how my weekend was, and then we talk about like what we're sipping on. I can't even consume what I did this weekend because it was so much. I just don't think that I did much sleeping, but I do know that my son has had his fourth game on Saturday. So he played 4 games in 1 week. Okay, or actually it was his 5th game, 4th game, 4 games in 1 week and 1 game last week. He is undefeated. His team is, but I always say he is undefeated, and he's extremely happy about it. But I need him to get back into the real world, like, you know, things do happen. Okay, he's waving. Okay, now you have to go upstairs. Okay, this happens sometimes, by the way. The kids are not asleep. Okay, but yeah, so we need to figure out a way for him to understand what reality is. Okay, because he thinks he's some kind of a star right now. So that's what's happening with my weekend. And what I am sipping on tonight is, you know, this is, I think, Merlot. And what I do is I had a glass last week, and then I take it, put it in a Tupperware, and stick it in the back of the freezer so my husband doesn't find it. And so I've got some kind of slushy red wine thing going, and it tastes really good. It's like almost like an iced popsicle with wine. I don't know. It's really good. So cheers to that. And cheers to you, Peggy. And how was your week? And what are you sipping on?
Well, you know, actually, I'm texting my son to bring over my thermos. I'm drinking that new core flavored water because I'm trying to drink more water, but I just don't like the taste of it.
What flavor is it?
It's watermelon lemon.
Okay.
So I'm gonna actually ask my son, could he come and get it, because I can't move. But my week has been a whirlwind. I think I was 3 days at a conference in Newark for work, which was very, very busy. You know, whining and dining clients. And
this is Working Mother?
Yes, the Working Mother. We have an affinity conference, so it helps people who are ERG and BRG leaders at their company learn how to be better leaders.
Okay. Awesome. Awesome.
And that was 3 days of that.
Okay.
And in between all that, I'm talking with my general contractor, my electrician, my plumber, you know, trying to get my house finished.
So crazy.
Yes.
Yeah, no, that's nuts. But I'm looking forward to the moment I could do that. And Beth, how are you? How was your week? And what are you sipping on? And I think something's burning in my kitchen. I'll be right back. Go ahead.
Live. So I'm sipping on water. I wish I was sipping on wine, but I have a bit of a headache, so I decided to avoid alcohol. But my week was busy. My weekend was chaotic. I'm just trying to recuperate. You know, my brother got married on Friday, so it was the first time that me and both of my brothers had been in the same place at the same time since 2011. So
wow,
it was a lot. Yeah, it was a lot of like catching up, and the wedding was far.
Where was it?
Vineland, New Jersey.
Oh yes, Vineland. Okay, that's on the water. Is it on the water?
It's not on the water, but it might as well be because it's so far. Like, I do not enjoy the drive.
I hear you.
It is far. It's about 2 hours, 2.5 hours south of me. And then, you know, yesterday was just supporting friends, going to farewell dinners, attending a friend's competition. So I'm just trying to recuperate.
I can only imagine. Yeah. Which is why you're refreshing with water, I guess. Now I get it.
That's probably why I have the
headache. Well, that is awesome. So without further ado, let's share a little bit about yourself and your journey towards your career. How did you become an interior designer? So let's start off with that.
It's actually an interesting story because my initial career was finance and accounting. When I became much closer to 30, I feel like that's when everyone has their epiphany of what they really want to do in their life. But I wasn't really sure exactly what I wanted to do. I enjoyed my corporate paycheck, very much so. But around that time, I decided to kind of redo things in my own home because I had purchased my home when I was 22. I mean, that first year, it was IKEA furniture, and I slept on a mattress on my floor. So my goal was to just to get the house, and I worried about furnishing. So 8 years later, when I'm closer to 30, I'm making good money. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to just kind of redo some things. And just during that process, I just kind of fell in love with interior design. Had always been extremely organized. Talk about a girl with OCD. And I just took like the organization and everything that I was just kind of learning through like magazines and things like that. And next thing I know, I was going to interior design school nights and weekends, and it just kind of flowed from there.
Okay. And how long have you been doing interior design?
Oh my God. I started part time in 2009, and then I went full time in 2014.
Oh, okay. Wow, wow, wow.
Yeah.
It's funny. The first time I've heard of you was on the because I listened to a few podcasts. One is Side Hustle Pro,
Uh,
and you gave such an amazing like interview on that, and I was
oh,
like,
thank
wow,
you.
I've got to look her up when I'm ready to start, renovating my home. One of the things that I wanted to ask was about renovating homes, but you know what? Let's before we get started on that, I want to share with you some of the images that you sent me.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
maybe you can talk to us a little bit about what we're seeing and give us a little bit of advice. Because what she's really here for is to share with us some style tips. And sometimes we get into conversation and then we never get to the style tips. So let's start with that.
Okay.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Ooh.
Okay. So this home is actually in South Orange. These
Wow.
are transplants from New York. They were moving to New Jersey for the first time with their son, who I think at the time was about 3.5 or 4. And this became kind of did some things in phases. When you first walk into their home, to the right was this room that you see here. Um, so what we wanted to do was kind of just create this space that just made you feel like you were kind of transported to your own separate area. So this was more so the wife's kind of queen quarters, like for her to just kind of, have her space away from her husband and her son. But she has a very fun, bold, and eclectic style, and so does the husband. So this was an amazing space to put together. So this is kind of a mix of things that you see. For instance, in the hallway, you see kind of like those wall scrolls, and those I got for like $7 for this
Really?
amazing place in Montclair called Vertigreen. It's owned by
Wow.
this amazing woman named Ozzy Shellhorst, and her shop has a mix of these very kind of inexpensive finds that are very unique in feel, or you can find items as in furniture that she's redone or very large art pieces, but $7 finds. And the art print that you see, like the Frida Kahlo,
Mhm.
is actually just, it was like a $10 print. I just grabbed some frames, and that became kind of their all way heart. Because what I wanted to spend my budget on was the room that you see, because even though this was literally a brand new home, and they bought the home and it was still being built, which, as you know, in South Orange, like there's already a lot of existing properties. You really don't see brand new homes. But I stepped in after they had already started working with the contractor. So there were things we needed to change. It was like, we have to retile this fireplace. So I wanted to focus on the bigger impact items. So I said, let's paint the room. We did the bottom portion below the chair rail and kind of like this very moody purple. And we went lighter on the top because I wanted to give you texture, I wanted to give you variety, and I wanted to give you interesting pieces.
Wow.
So those wishbones you see on the wall, they were actually this kind of gold, pink, and green that the husband bought that the wife hated. But I said, this has opportunity here. So I literally went to Home Depot. I bought some black chalk paint, spray paint, and I just spray painted them. And I just made little holes in the back, and I just added them as decor. And then I just really wanted to just focus on the pieces that last forever should be your splurges. But your steals, such as in like art and decor, that's the thing that you can really fluctuate your price point on. Those are the things that should be your steals. So for me, it was all about, we are going to stretch the budget as much as possible, but it becomes very much about strategic decisions. Okay. So if you go to the next photo.
Okay. Wow.
This is another view of that space, kind of when you're looking at it head on. You can see much more. So if memory serves me correctly, we spent more money on the coffee table than we did the sofa.
Wow.
Where was the sofa from?
The sofa is actually from ABC Home in New York City.
Okay.
But what I loved about it is that it's hard to tell from this photo, but the sofa is very deep. It's almost 3 feet deep.
Oh, wow.
So because she wanted these queen's quarters, I'm like, we need somewhere for her to lounge, somewhere for her to relax, somewhere for her to kick her feet up, somewhere for her to read. So I wanted something deep, and this sofa is incredibly comfortable. It literally became very hard to let this space go. I wanted to almost move into it myself.
Wow. I see another wishbone here.
Yes, yes. So they had this ottoman that was, I know I hated it, but I was trying to stretch my budget, and I was able to just find some mud cloth and had my upholsterer just reupholster it in this mud cloth. So that was one way we just kind of saved money.
Oh, nice.
That large piece of artwork with the small frame, oh God, I wish I could remember who the artist was. It's eluding me at the moment. Someone famous, but that watercolor is a very expensive piece of art, but it was so poorly framed before. I just felt like it just washed it out. So I had it professionally framed using gallery glass, so sun rays and things like that would not impact the art. So that whole piece probably was closer to almost like $1,000 just to get it properly framed, because they already had the piece of watercolor. So I used a mix of what they already had, like the gold statues, and I really wanted to make the investment in furniture. And this is why this coffee table was almost more than the sofa, because it's not something that you would see regularly. It's kidney shaped, it's gold, it's very intricately detailed. It's just a beautiful piece. And then we went with these wooden end tables. You can't really see it that well in the photo, but the wood grain on it is gorgeous. And then got some African wax print, had some pillows made, mixed it up with some pillows from Home Goods, because again, we're trying to stretch those dollars.
Yeah.
It became really about styling. And if you go to the next photo, this is a better photo of that coffee table.
Nice.
So I waited maybe about 4 or 5 months for this coffee table to come in, but it was so worth it. And because I wanted to stretch the dollar, if you really stock Home Goods and their rug department, especially in New Jersey, if you go to the one on Route 22 in Union or the one in Paramus, their rug selection is really good. You can get some top quality rugs. So this is an extra.
What's the name of the place? I live in Union. What's the name of the place?
Home Goods.
Oh, okay.
Home Goods. Yeah, this is 100% wool rug that I got for an amazing price to kind of bring everything together. Because again, I really wanted it to be about texture and color. I wanted her to feel like this room was like her oasis from everything else. So if you scroll to the next photo, this is another view. And of course we had to give her a bar, because if she wants to entertain girlfriends or things like that, I thought it'd be important to do that. And you saw the green sofa. I paired it with some black cane back chairs. The cushions that came on the chairs were the usual cream that we always see. And I was like, this is not special enough for this space. So I had my poster redo them, one side with this oxblood leather and the other side with this African wax print. Again, this goes back to, even if you get something that can be standard, a quick and inexpensive way is just have it redone. It's depending on the piece, having cushions or things like that redone, especially when they're brand new, is not expensive, but it has a huge impact in the long run.
Okay.
And this mirror was actually something that I had in my own stock, because if I see something amazing, I will buy it and hold it for a client. So this is where this mirror kind of came from. And if you scroll to the next photo, so this is an interesting space. This is actually a home in Upper Montclair. And when I got my hands on it, they already had the coffee table, they already had the sofa and the settee, and they already had the oriental rug. It just became about making it feel less standard, like matchy-matchy. So this was another place where I said, we have to retile your fireplace because it's depressing. You make me want to throw the entire fireplace away. So even though they had already painted, we retiled the fireplace, and I had them paint just the wall with the fireplace, because it used to be the tan that the rest of the room was. So that just made it pop a little bit. Because this was a much tighter budget, I found curtains from, I believe it was from West Elm, and I just had them customized. We did curtains for the bay window. I just had to get them hemmed, but there's another window in this room where I just had it kind of pleated and dropped down. And this really became about accessories and organizing, because again, they had the main furniture pieces. I layered another rug, another area rug on top, just to give it some texture, just to make it feel much more interesting. And actually, I believe on my social media pages, I've shared what the before looked like, and it's hard to believe that it's the same space.
I love the size of this space. This space is beautiful.
Thank you. And actually led into this sunroom that we actually redid a year after.
Oh, okay.
So really, accessories is what will make a room feel complete. It's those details that become so important, and you don't have to make a huge investment. Like, it's really about knowing where to shop. I mean, I love Home Goods for those, when I'm literally, because the details are what kind of happens at the ends of the process, once everything is kind of in place. Then you kind of see, you know what, we need a vase in this spot. It should be this color, just to give the room some visual interest. But those become most important, because that is literally what will bring the entire room together.
Okay.
And actually, just to highlight, if you look towards the back of the room, you'll see kind of that Mayan calendar. That's something that they got on a trip, I believe, to Mexico. But it had such a beautiful texture to it, I didn't want to put it in glass. I just went and grabbed a frame from Michael's, and I literally just put the Mayan calendar on the wall with some 3M command strips. And then I hung the frame over it without glass, because it was such a beautiful piece. It needed its own dedicated area.
That's so amazing.
Thank you.
Is that a working fireplace? Because I see the baskets are inside of it.
It's not a working fireplace. It can be, but I believe that they had no intention of ever using it. Okay. And the inside of it was black. And they initially had some wood in there, but the wood wasn't enough. It was just lacking. I said, well, let's add a bit of texture. And then I put in a few candles in there. I think the candles from Anthropology. And I said, this could set a mood for you as well, especially if you're not planning on ever using the fireplace.
Okay.
And this was a much older home. I think this home was very early 1900s, like 1912. As you know, like many of the homes in Montclair are very old. Montclair is a very old town.
Yeah, yeah. There are many towns like that in New Jersey,
Yeah.
Including my town, Union, which I think is a little bit newer than Montclair.
Mm-hmm.
One of the challenges we have in Union is that we have small homes, but they're older. But I love an old home because I'm born and raised in Brooklyn. So like gentrifying and building up a home that's old is like a passion that, you have when you come from areas that have, older homes. I'm going to ask you later what's your suggestion on that. So let's go to the next one. This is making me very excited.
I love it. This is just another view of this same room. So you get a closer view of kind of what we did with that fireplace. And again, because the budget was a little bit tighter, if you just focus on like a mosaic tile, you could definitely save some money. Like this was from an inexpensive place. I forget the name of the tile. Standard tile on Route 3 in Totowa. It was very inexpensive per square foot. It worked within the budget. I said, well, we're going to go with something that it's a glass mosaic tile, very beautiful to look at, reflects the light, and I liked how that kind of just flowed with the new window treatment. So it just gave the room a lot more vocal points than it had before. And I always, and I talk about this also on my website and sometimes on social media. Every time I do a space, I always leave an elephant with the trunk up for good luck, just to kind of bring like positive vibes into the room. Because I feel like if you go home and you don't feel good, you have to change something in your home. So this is kind of part of that same premise.
Nice. Okay.
And if you move to the next slide, that's a close-up of that piece I was talking about, the Mayan calendar. And literally this frame must have been like maybe $25, $30 from Michael's. I was just as long as I found the right size, I knew I could make it work. That's
amazing. And so they got this in Mexico, you said?
Yeah, the Mayan calendar, I believe they got from a trip in Mexico. And it was just rolled up with a whole bunch of other decor that they didn't know what to do with.
Yeah.
So one day I just went through all their decor items. We talked about what they really wanted to include. And then we went through, I don't know if we want to put this anywhere. We might have to put this back. And then this is one of the pieces that I love and say we should definitely highlight this.
Okay. That's really cool. And you know what? That's really helpful because a lot of times I'll go on vacation because I used to travel a lot for my job and I bought pieces and I literally, when I got home, I did not know what to do with them. I think that happens to a lot of people.
It does. There's a lot of things that you can hang. Like I went to Istanbul and there was this place, I think it was called Argonon or something of the sort. And they had beautiful decor and beautiful textiles. And like we've all heard of Turkish towels. And they had these linen placemats that were linen and leather. And I said, you know what? I only want one placemat and I'm going to hang it on my wall because I don't want anyone to put their plate on it. Like this is too beautiful to use. It should be decor. So if you, again, to your travels, if it's a placemat, if it's a print, if it's something like this, if it's fabric, you can literally put fabric directly on the wall. You can have it put onto a pole and have it hung. You can get it framed. There are 1,000 things to do with something that you love. The key is to find something that you love and work with that. But you just have to make sure that those things go together. Like just don't go and get 1 million things and just hope it's all going to work together. That's asking for trouble.
I guess so.
Yeah.
I guess so. Is this your last slide? Because I wanted to go back to the first one. I had a question on the first one.
It might be. I can't remember.
Oh, nope. One more.
Yep. So this was basically me just saying like that same window treatment that I got from West Elm. I just had my, upholsterer who also does window treatments turn it into this as well. But this may be the last slide, I believe.
Okay. I love the curtain. So there are a couple of questions that I have. I'm going to stick to 2, but this first one, the French doors, is it worth it? Because I love a French door. I don't have one now, but I have the perfect place for one. Is it worth it to get one built in? Like, what's the cost for that? And should I even worry about doing that?
It really depends. So when this house was being built, they already did the pocket doors, right?
Got you. Okay.
So with the pocket door, you have to make sure that you have the actual wall space on both sides for the doors to slide into. And the wall has to be thick enough. So not the standard wall. You need a wall that's thick enough to actually fit the pocket doors into.
Okay. Okay. That's good advice. And also, you know, my house has very low ceilings,
Mm-hmm.
and I find myself struggling with figuring out how to make my rooms look more spacious with such a low ceiling. Do you have any suggestions for that?
Here's my first question would be, do you have windows in that room? And if so, tell me where you're hanging your window treatment.
So my window treatments are there. We have a ton of windows in this house.
Mm-hmm.
Each room, like my living room that I'm sitting in now, has this window behind me, and then there's 2 windows on each side, right?
Yeah.
The window for my dining room, which is kind of the middle of the house, just has 1 picture window. And then the family room has about 5 windows in it. So there are a lot of windows. But because the ceiling is so low, I find the house tends to be a little darker than I would like it to be.
What's the height of your ceilings?
I want to say it's like 11 foot or 12 foot.
That's high.
Okay, so then I'm wrong. Okay, it's not high. The ceilings are not high. Maybe it's like 9 foot then.
Okay, because a standard ceiling is 8 feet.
So it's probably 8 foot then.
Okay.
It's the lowest because I remember ordering my closets from IKEA and having to send them back because I didn't measure height. And they said my height was way too high, was way too low for what I ordered. They were higher than what I have.
If you have a standard 8-foot ceiling, it's not about it being low. I think it may be where you may be hanging things. So if you're hanging your window treatment literally right above your window,
Okay.
so, which is normally about let's say about 7 feet,
Okay.
you're making them look short.
Okay, so let me show you what I have here.
So you are hanging it pretty close to the ceiling. I would bring it up even higher to the ceiling. I would bring your window treatments up a bit.
Yeah.
Because that gap that you see kind of makes the eye feel like it's lower than it should be.
Okay.
Literally bring it all the way to your ceiling. Yep.
And what do you think about track lighting?
I don't really use them that much.
Okay.
I really think that people should use amazing fixtures, and they don't have to be. Well, let me say this. First, it would be function.
Okay.
Like if it's like a home office, then you need lighting, right?
Okay.
Like I have a light fixture that has it's 1 fixture, but it has 1, 2, 3, 4. It has 5 kind of movable light bulbs in it, depending where I want to focus, right?
Okay.
But it was an inexpensive fixture. I might have spent like $120 on this thing.
Gotcha.
But it's what my focus is. But for instance, if I go into my bedroom, it's a ceiling fan because my bedroom is on the 2nd floor. We all know that hot air rises.
Yeah.
And I needed something that would give me a bang. Like I needed light, and I needed kind of circulation in the summer months.
Okay.
I don't really track light is something you would see more so in a kitchen, but I think what you see more now that makes it feel more modern is like smaller pendant lights being used.
Okay. Okay. That sounds good. Peggy, did you have questions? I don't want to hog. I'm hogging.
I know. I'm listening to you. You know, when you talk about curtains, I mean, I realized when you were discussing this, I'm going to have a challenge because my contractor made my accent wall in my living room a full stone wall. I have 2 windows. I don't have the equipment to bring it up high, although I would love to. But what should I do? I have to say I have 8-foot high ceilings, you know, and so in terms of putting in a window treatment, you know, do I go to Home Depot and buy that drill to go through the stone to affix the rods?
My first thought is, so even around the window, it's stone as well, around the molding?
Stone all around it. Yeah, that was his little gift to me.
Well, See, I see this with contractors all the time.
Yeah.
The function of how things may work when they leave and when you have to live in is not always thought through, right? So I would say your quickest solution is get a rod that you can attach to the ceiling.
Okay.
Yep, because not all rods are, can have to be attached to the wall. In that situation, if you don't want to go into the stone, get a ceiling hung curtain rod.
Oh, okay. Thank you, because I was looking at it going, what am I going to do?
Yeah, I've seen that quite a few times, especially in like loft style homes where the window literally goes all the way up to the ceiling. Got to use that ceiling hung curtain rod. It will be a lifesaver because you do want some sort of privacy. So that would be the best thing to do.
Yeah, thank you, because I was looking at it today and I said,
what am I going to do?
He was so proud of himself. I did this for you, Peggy. And I'm like,
say thank you, right? Thank you.
Well, thank you.
So we do have a question from one of our viewers. This is from a young lady named Tracy. She's from Florida.
Hi, Tracy from Florida.
Beth Ann said hi. She said she's interested in becoming an interior designer. She loves all things that pertain to modernizing and upgrading homes. She wants to know how you became a designer, which I think you kind of explained earlier. Right. But she also asked, did you go to school for it? Or how did you get into the field in terms of like school?
What I will say is that I jumped in before I went back to school for it.
Okay.
It was during that first year of me opening my business that I decided that the best decision for me was to go back to school. But it really depends on what type of design you want to do. So there are so many varying levels. There were some amazing designers who've never gone to school and have strictly learned off of experience. And what I will say is school only teaches you but so much. You learn your real hard lessons and how to apply certain things from just kind of going through the process. So it's definitely been a mixed bag. But what I will say is I was going to school while I was still working a full-time finance job. So it took me 4 years just to get an associate's degree. But those 4 years of nights and weekends, I was miserable, I was exhausted, I was cranky, and I didn't see a lot of my friends. Because as an adult, to go back to school to do that, it's a heavy load if you're still going to work your full-time job. So what I will say is research schools in your area, because you'd be surprised, even though I live in New Jersey and I'm very close to New York, I had very limited options in finding an interior design school that offered classes nights and weekends or didn't require me to go to school pretty much full-time. So I would say to see even before you even, jump through the process of what you should do, research local schools in your area to see what's available to you. And at least a lot of these schools, outside of just doing like one of those general walkthroughs that they allow you to do, is they'll do an introduction course to interior design and get one of their handbooks and see what types of courses that they actually do offer and decide what classes you feel like you really do need before you make that investment. And then feel free, if you have any specific questions, feel free to reach out to me directly, and I'll be more than happy to answer any additional questions that you may have.
Wonderful, wonderful. I wanted to go back to the whole window treatment thing. I think the reason why this is kind of like fascinating for most of us is because that's one of those areas I know for me, when I first moved out, that it costs so much money to get someone to put window treatment. I mean, I think I underestimated how much money it costs to do window treatments. So I guess my question for you, because I was at my girlfriend's house this weekend in I won't say where, but I was at her house and she literally decided to go with a window treatment company. And right now she's in legal issues with them because they didn't deliver. So who should you go with? How should you know? Do you do that? Or because I went to Pottery Barn, like I wanted a certain color curtains and I went to Pottery Barn. Like, how do you know what's the right thing to do?
It really depends on, I think a lot of things then go back to budget, right?
Okay.
If it's a home that has special circumstances, like you have very high ceilings. Like I had a client last year and their ceiling had to be, oh God, maybe about almost 20 feet where we had to put these window treatments. That is, we need custom.
Okay.
And someone professional has to come in.
Okay.
A lot of times what I will do for a client based on budget, and it's a regular height ceiling, like let's say 8 to maybe like 12 feet, I will literally hang them myself. But I'm also, from just way before I was a designer, I was a homeowner. So I already had my tools. I already learned. I changed my own light fixtures in my own house. But I'm just kind of handy that way. So there are certain things that I will do.
Okay.
If you're not handy, and you need someone to do it, you have to figure out what the function is, what your possibilities are. You know, back to like one of the examples that I've heard so far, you have to decide what makes sense for you financially. Could you get something amazing from Pottery Barn? Absolutely. Using the example from this home, you know, funny enough, they had worked with another designer the previous year. But the designer, I think, was very cookie cutter.
Okay.
In their approach, like very safe. And they wanted a lot more personality. So I actually, because these were custom curtains, she's like, we spent a lot of money on these window treatments. We have to keep them. Okay. So for this particular room, that was my starting point. Wow. So sometimes, depending, maybe your window treatments, if you have a lot of windows in a room, sometimes that's be your starting point. Okay. So I said, well, we'll keep them, but I changed the hardware, and we left them, and then everything else had to flow around them. But if you can score something from, I'm going to go back, Home Goods and Home Sense, but you have to scour, because you know sometimes you go to Home Goods, you may find one window panel. Exactly. And you need 6. You got to scour all the Home Goods in the area. Sometimes I've had to do that if I realized that I wanted something special, but my budget was small and I had to just kind of work with the client, work within their budget. Scour for panels, use online resources. I will say that even though their panels are expensive, they are beautiful, and that's Anthropologie. If you need something with a pop, go to Anthropologie, see what they have, and make that investment. Because window trees is not something that you change every year. That's something that may literally sit on your window for a decade. Yeah. Because no one's trying to go up and down that ladder to change them. So those are the things that should be a splurge and not a steal are your window treatments. But sometimes, I would say sometimes consult a designer, see what they would recommend. Like, even there are several designers who offer a consultation for 2 hours. Like I myself do that, or I offer a 30-minute phone call where you have questions and you're not sure what to do in your space. A 30-minute phone call, we'll FaceTime, show me what you have, and then I'll give you recommendations and resources. But there are definite ways to kind of figure out what your window treatment options are. But to your friend, I only recommend people that I have worked with before.
Well, she's new to the town, and I think that's part of the problem. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's when you have to call friends or post. There's so many Facebook groups where I see people posting, asking for resources.
I do that.
Yeah. So I would say call a local designer, post on Facebook if everyone has the recommendation. But when you do that post, the important part of the recommendation is to ask, have you used them? Right. Please don't recommend your cousin. Yes. Or a friend that you've never used before. Make sure that person has used them. There's a window treatment company here in Livingston, New Jersey, and they are amazing. And that's the only company that I use when I need custom window treatments, and there's a ceiling that I know I need a professional to go to hang that in.
Okay. Okay. What's the name of the place?
They are, it's owned by Luann Nagara, and my memory is so terrible, but I'm going to look it up for you right now.
You can post it up there later. Post it under the comments later, because I know people might want to ask. I had another question for you about, I don't remember my question anymore. Oh, I had a question about the fireplace. So I also have a flat fireplace. I love it. I have absolutely no plans of using it though. And I love what you did here. So I guess my question is, how much does it cost for me to pull everything out and do something like this? And is this reversible? And how much does it cost to reverse it? Where I can actually, is it worth it to reverse it and become a fireplace? I'm thinking more for a resale standpoint.
What do you mean reverse it?
So in other words, can they still use it as a fireplace when it has the tile in the back and in the front and everything?
It's still usable, but it depends on, like, the inside was painted. The question is, what's the flammability of that paint? Because they planned on never using it.
Right.
Could it be refinished? Absolutely. But that's something you need a contractor to actually make that judgment call.
Got you. Okay. Okay. I hate the way my fireplace looks, and I love this. I love what you did here. I don't think we're ever going to use this fireplace because we're never in this room.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I'm like, this gives me a really good idea of what we should do with this fireplace now.
And when a house is so old, one of their concerns is, what if we try to use it and something happens?
Yes.
Because, you know, yes, the house has been renovated, but the house is more than 100 years old.
Yeah. Yeah.
They don't know what happened. So it's like, they don't want the headache, which I completely understand. Yeah. And they had, I believe, they might have been the ones that painted the inside black. It just became a matter of, but the outside of it was so ugly. And I was very honest with them. I said, I would love to do the space with the requirement that we retile this fireplace because it's just a missed opportunity.
Yeah.
And some people would die for a fireplace, so you have to just be creative. Like, there's been other fireplaces I've had to redo, and I've literally gone to this place, and actually they are based in Irvington, New Jersey. They're called Real Antique Wood, and I will go and I will just get blocks of reclaimed wood, and that becomes part of the decor within a fireplace. But there are so many options. You could use vases. You could use ginger jars. It could be a series of baskets. You could do a bunch of candles with, like, multiple, going at varying heights. You just have to figure out, first, always start with function, how you want to use it. Like, do you want additional light in that space to create some, like a mood? Then maybe candles is your best option. Do you have young kids and you don't want them to touch things that are in there? Then you need heavy items that they can't move, and that's where you go the wood route. It really is based on functionality first.
Okay. Thank you so much.
So I have a question. I have a question. Well, I mean, Beth, I had interviewed like 3 different interior designers because I'm doing a lot of work in my house. And I got 3 different points of view. One designer, and I live in Queens, one said that I was doing too big of a reno for them to be involved. Call me once I get the walls put up and all that. Another wanted to charge me $250 just for the consult. And then when I said, well, is this taking off the cost? She said no. So then, I ended up, not really pursuing it with her. And then I had another gentleman who came to my house. I was very excited. He prefaced that, well, I only do commercial, but I want to make interior decorating affordable for homeowners. But when he gave me the contract, he literally lifted his commercial contract and just dumped in my information, and it was exorbitant, and it was a contract that never ended. Well, if I travel, T&E, if I buy something, it's 25%. So when you are looking for an interior decorator, what's a budget that's not going to be insulting to your expertise, from a homeowner like myself? How would I go about that?
That's ironic, Peggy, because somebody just asked that too. So yeah, okay. that's the burning question.
It's okay. What I will say is that every designer works differently.
Mm-hmm.
And every designer has levels. And you know what? I'm so glad that you asked this question, because this goes back to a question that the woman from Florida asked earlier about going back to school. Different designers do different things. So that first woman that you mentioned who said, "Oh, you gotta wait for the walls to go up," then maybe she's more just a decorator. She's not a designer. So a designer can do what a decorator can do, but a decorator cannot do what a designer can do. And because I wanted to do everything because I'm crazy and I just like to know everything, right? I wanted to go back to school because I wanted the option to do everything, and I wanted to learn how to, like, you know, do AutoCAD drawing and understand lighting, because this is an expertise. So, you know, kudos to that first designer that you spoke to for being honest and said, this is not my cup of tea. Call me back later. Regarding the second designer, I do what the second designer does. For 2 hour a consultation, I charge $250. But with that 2 hours, the reason why we do that is because that's our time and that's our creative. So I'm not just coming to just do a walkthrough to see it. I'm coming to have a full blown out conversation with you. We're going to discuss actual design ideas. I'm going to give you suggestions. And we're also using the opportunity to see, are we even a good fit? Because our styles may not be the same. We may not even like each other. And that consultation gives you the opportunity to feel each other out, to see what the possibilities are, because it may be a situation where a designer come in and say, you actually can't do this because of these reasons, or you know what, to have this conversation, we're also getting a contractor because I have these concerns. You want to tear that wall down, but I think that's a load-bearing wall. We need to bring in a professional. So that consultation is actually really, really valuable time to not only build a rapport with your designer, but to actually see if the things you want to do are even really feasible.
Yeah, because we all want the world, but you know.
I know, and I feel bad because I'm in sales, so you know, we always trying to make a deal.
Yeah.
I said, well, you're not taking the $250 off. Now, mind you, you know, I also wanted to find out, well, what's an appropriate budget? Because like I said, I don't want to insult anybody, you know.
Oh, during that consultation, that is something that your designer should be able to give you a rough estimate with, based on that conversation. Because it's hard to say. A designer won't know until they actually see the property. You know, someone may say, oh, we only want to make these light changes. I've been in that situation before. We only want to do this, but I'll come in and say, you know what, but before you do that, you should actually do X, Y, and Z first. And then I'll explain to them why it should happen in that order. For instance, don't go and buy, say you want a gallery wall, but you need to paint first. Like, you'd be surprised, like, people don't necessarily think through the process, but how would they even know the process? This is not their day to day. So sometimes you have to just go back and take the time and just kind of trust the expert. With the third designer that you mentioned, I'm not really sure about that situation because I don't know kind of what his process is. But again, every designer charges differently.
Okay.
So speaking of charging, because that seems to be coming up a lot, I just want to make sure that we're answering Tiff's question. So Tiff, basically, someone like Beth would have to come in and see your space before she gives you an idea of how much she would charge. She wanted to know what the minimal budget is that you would work for. And I don't know that that's the question that you could really answer.
It's hard because the question is, well, what is the project?
Right.
And
okay.
If it, I've had certain clients, normally I get this with like repeat clients who literally only want me to come in to do a gallery wall. I have a client that I've been working with in West Orange, and they literally call and say, we want you to do a gallery wall in the stairwell. The ceiling is, like 15 or 16 feet. And that's literally all they want. So with that budget, that's much different. But if you want me to come in and design your kitchen renovation and, help you find your contractor and specify all appliances and choose the color palette. That's a much different story. So it really depends on what the project is.
Okay. And Shonda Curry, who actually lives in New Jersey, and I actually know her, and she's going through like renovation. She also owns an old home. I think her main question was, what type of services do you offer? Do you go all the way from a complete gut renovation? Like, do you see the process from the gut all the way through?
Yes, I do run the full gamut.
Okay, great.
But I do not take on every project though.
Yeah, we're stealing a lot of your time because this is great. I mean, I'm really enjoying this. You know, everybody's an HGTV fan. They love renovating. So lots of great feedback here. I want to ask you about the sconces because I see some beautiful sconces here and I'm intrigued by sconces, but they look beautiful. Yes. But to me, those are one of those things that might cost a lot of money to actually do because you got to go in the wall.
With these, you know what? I'd have to go back because this was a project from about 2-3 years ago. I would have to double check, but I believe these were sconces. No, actually, these sconces were already there. Well, they had a different fixture there, right? Different sconces, but those were ones where I said, we have to get rid of these. Like, these are not okay, right?
Right.
And these new sconces are from Restoration Hardware. But again, it goes back to strategically spending the budget. If we're going to make this fireplace wall a feature when you first walk into your living room, not only are we going to redo the fireplace, we have to think about what's going to go above the mantle. What are the sconces going to look like? And these weren't largely expensive. I would have to go back to check, but I think each sconce may have been about $150. But a light fixture, again, think about it like a window treatment. It's going to stay there for at least a decade, right? So it's an investment.
Okay.
That's a splurge.
Okay. And I wanted to also share before we close, if you could share your top website tips for purchasing home products. What would you consider your top websites that people can purchase from? Because sometimes you order something, it looks great online, and then you get it and you're like, you know. Yeah.
I would say, so we're going to ignore all trade resources, and I'm only going to list things that anyone out in the world can buy themselves, any homeowner.
Okay.
So some of my favorite websites, and this kind of runs the gamut of things. Wayfair is a great resource because they have a bit of everything.
They do.
Yep. And the shipping is incredibly quick, which I can always appreciate. Because normally, especially as a homeowner, when I order something, even I want it quick, especially if it's for my own home, right?
Right.
I also love websites like, funny enough, like Serena and Lily.
Oh, okay.
Because they have a bit of everything as well. I do love Anthropologie's website. I feel like what you go inside, many people don't know how many home products Anthropologie actually carries, because what you see in store is probably only, 5% of what they actually have. But when you go on their website, they have everything from sofas to chairs to light fixtures to lamps to rugs to, I think I mentioned their window. They have beautiful window treatments.
Nice.
I shared a property that I did in upstate New York within a couple weeks ago on my Instagram that led out to their back deck. Those, and they had like pom-poms on them. Those are actually from Anthropologie as well. Who else do I absolutely love? There are so many sites. I would say, funny enough, another site that's under the Anthropologie umbrella that if I'm looking for something cheap but funky is Urban Outfitters website.
Really?
They have a good home section, yeah. Okay. Very inexpensive. But if I want something that has a bit of edge, I will normally go to Urban Outfitters if I'm working within a budget.
Had no idea.
Yep.
Wow.
I do love everyone knows about Restoration Hardware.
Yes.
I do love the Restoration Hardware site. But I also like the spin-offs that they've come out with. Like they have Restoration Hardware Baby and Child. They have Restoration Hardware Modern. So each one of those sites, and Restoration Hardware Teen is great as well.
Oh, okay.
So there's ample times I've noticed recently over the last year. Well, first I'll go to the RH Teen website, just based off of my aesthetic because I like what they carry. There's another one I was going to list just now. Who else do I really like? There are so many resources.
Yeah.
I do like Pottery Barn Teen.
Okay.
More than I like Pottery Barn.
Yeah.
Because there's a Emily and Merritt has a collaboration with Pottery Barn Teen that I really, really like. Because especially if it's for more of a women's space, there's like a lot of gold. There's a lot of pretty elements that I like with that line as well.
Okay. So you're saying that line is good not just for teens, it's good for anyone.
It's good for adults as well, yes. Right. It's like everything from like the furniture pieces to the to some of their decor items I really, really like. And their office chairs,
okay.
Which I think may be regular Pottery Barn.
Okay.
But it's Emily and Merritt.
Okay,
is the collaboration, and that's amazing.
Okay. Great.
Oh, and West Elm. I do love West Elm. They're based in Brooklyn. They're owned by Williams Sonoma Home. But I just love that aesthetic as well. And they do a lot of collaborations and bring in a lot of very original pieces from artists, whether it's furniture or actually art items. So I love their collaborations as well.
So Pier 1 is a popular franchise. What do you think of them?
You know, my issue with Pier 1, even though I do like a lot of their stuff, is that I've had a lot of issues with things arriving broken. So much so that I spend more of the time trying to fix it than their actual employees do. So I had a situation with them last year that now Pier 1 is just on timeout with me.
Okay.
For quite a while.
Good to know. I do find their stores to be a little cluttered and it's hard to really search through a lot of this stuff. But when I find something, I like it. And I like them more for outside my house versus inside my house, I feel like.
Yeah, the stores are very, very cluttered. So sometimes it's better to look on their website first. See if it's in the store and then go there. But I think that's part of the issues why if you get something from the store, how it ends up being broken. Because all they're doing sometimes is sending it from a store to your home.
Yeah. Okay, well, I think we can wrap up. You know what? This was absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much. You were our first interior design guest.
Oh, I'm happy to be the first.
Yes, and that was amazing. I really hope you come back because people it seems to be very well received. And we'd love to have you back. You know, we're new, we're growing, and as we grow, we want to keep you with us.
Yes. So. Consider it a yes in advance. I would love to be back.
Awesome. So before we leave, I would love for you to share with everyone where they can find you, your website, your social media, and anything new you have coming up that you'd love to share with the audience.
Yeah, so my website is www.bethdianasmith.com. And I am literally at Beth Diana Smith everywhere. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest. And you know what? I was on Open House NYC back in January, and that episode re-aired this morning.
Oh, did it?
Yes. Yeah, it re-aired this morning, and you can literally find that on my website. If you go to my press page, go to Open House NYC, and there's a link to YouTube where you can actually watch my segment on the show.
Okay, great. And I know you're on Instagram. I see you on Instagram all the time.
Yes. I'm heavily on Instagram, probably the most. And then I do have some things in the works that I'll make sure that I share, with your audience as well on social media. And I will be at The first, let me make sure I give you the right date. I literally have to live my life by a calendar app, or else I would not be able to keep up with myself.
And that, my dear, is a good life.
Yes.
When you have to check your calendar to find out what you're doing, that's a good
yes.
life.
So on September 29th, the first annual DIY Makers Con will be in Camden, New Jersey. And it's literally founded by two amazing Black creatives. And I will be one of the panelists there.
Oh, okay. Wonderful.
And that is DIYmakerscon.com.
DIY
Makers, MAKERSCON as in Nancy.com. And tickets are already on sale. And I will literally be there the entire event, even outside of my panel discussion. So if anyone is going, please come say hello. I would love to chat. And then with everything else I have coming up, I'll make sure that I share.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Beth. Please share with me. I'm happy to share it on the Black in the Burbs page when you have anything new.
Thank you.
Clearly, our audience really likes home interior design. And thank you once again. Have a wonderful week. To everyone who's been watching, have a great week. And check us out on YouTube on Wednesday. We'll include all the resources. And say goodbye to Diana. We're going to leave her to go home now so she can watch the BET Awards. I don't know if that's what you're doing. That's what I'm doing. And I'm also going to say bye. Okay. And I'm going to say goodbye to Peggy. Thank you so much, Peggy. We love you. And you guys have a great night and a great week.
Thank you. You too.
Okay.
You too.